That's it.
Hey, we're ready to go back into regular session here.
And turn it into
Ding,
a
and then we end up having to pay somebody to come
plumber.
to fix what messed up.
Like he's. Yeah, that's because Johnny could build a house if he needed to, so he can fix almost anything if he wants to.
And I feel like I want it, so the fact that he even like.
We're returning to regular session at this time, and yes, it's actually working correctly. Why, I'm not sure, but it is. So at this point, I don't know if there's any discussion that anybody wants to bring up out of our previous discussion. Not sure exactly how to enter into that, but if you want to talk about procedures and things that you maybe would like to see implemented as far as the council and the village administrator or whatever it is you want to address.
Well, I think that council should get together and talk about procedures, how to file a request, a data request, that may be prolonged or cost money. I think we need to know, that if you're giving a request, everybody can do a public document request.
Sure.
Any resident, any citizen can, so can council.
Absolutely.
But we also need to know that you can't force us to create a report that doesn't exist.
That's correct.
I learned that in the Sunshine Law. So a resident can come in and give us a list of things they want us to produce. If it's not a report that we currently produce, we've got no obligation to spend money and large quantity of time trying to produce a report that somebody wants.
It's gonna be a document in the normal course of business.
Correct.
Or created to document what business the village is doing. If it's
Correct.
not there, it's not correct.
Right. They can't request something that we don't produce anyway normally. There are probably times when, if you don't understand, so I just think council needs to discuss it as a whole. Because not everybody's on every committee. I don't have the time to go to every committee. I do trust the committee. But if I did have questions on a big issue, like this really is an important issue, a water rate increase.
Absolutely.
Then I should be able to go somewhere to get that information. But, I think we can, as a council, can talk about appropriate and professional ways to do that. And I think it's better to do it with everybody.
I didn't hear what you said.
No, I just did, everything she's saying, I agree with. I have something, based off the conversation Rob and I had to kind of, I think it'll give some clarity to questions, that may exist. And so I've never had a problem with any council member, and my understanding is the mayor has an open door philosophy. It just can't be taken to the extreme. And you've been great. And with that, we operate out of committees. I think everybody here understands that. When I'm given a action item out of a committee meeting, it's understood that there will be dialogue back and forth. Also, it's pertains to just establishing some ground rules and how we operate. I really think that we need to focus on the president pro tempore role. While that's outlined in the ORC, it's really further identified in Robert's rules, it being a leadership role and kind of a hybrid that serves, but not only is the president pro tempore in the mayor's absence, but also the leadership role of the legislative authority. So if there is a complaint that needs to be brought forward from a legislator, from a council member, that should go to Ms. Meister. And from there, Ms. Meister can present that complaint or concern or feedback to the mayor. Rob and I had some discussion on that. I really think by formalizing that kind of process, we can cut out a lot of this subjectivity and focus less on theories and more on what's there in Robert's rules and the ORC and the village handbook. I think that just gives us a clear and defined path to how to conduct meetings, how communication should flow. So that's all I have. Rob, I don't know if you have anything to add on that. I know you and I have researched it together, but
Yes, I agree. We need to cross-reference all of it, just with the law and those statutory rules and whatnot. And I mean, it is pretty solid.
So I know I'm newer, obviously, so this is just a question. So if we had an idea of something that we would like to see the village do, what is the appropriate way of saying, hey, I have an idea, how can I get this thing
I'm
going?
talking about an everyday citizen.
Yeah, no, or like if somebody brings up, like, for example, you know, the ladies next to me, they wanna do the door. So let's say I had this idea, like, let's do a Dora, like how, if I had an idea of something I would wanna do, what is the right process of?
I would say you would take it to the committee that would oversee that.
Okay,
Maybe even go to Justin, and they would say, let's present that at the safety committee, if that's where they think it belongs.
okay.
Or the
so-
finance committee, or
So
the.
that would be like the first step for an idea.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
think. I don't
Most of
know.
our things kind of start as bills in a committee. And so like a DORA and revitalization district would fall under finance committee,
And it's been discussed in finance.
finance and development.
I'm just saying like generally,
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
think we should have something, like, I don't know, I'm just saying,
Well,
you know,
it's
ideas in
just
general.
like the emergency notification system that came in through
Safety.
safety.
Okay,
Or if you have an idea and don't know, bring it up at council, we discuss it and then decide as a group where it goes.
What committee
Okay.
it goes to.
Yeah, so there's a lot more at length and informal discussion in the committee meetings, and a lot more Q and A. And I think the purpose of that is to try to limit our council meetings here. And sometimes it goes through multiple committees, you know, like the Parks Coordinator, that started in Finance Committee. And it wasn't until they adopted, the salary range and, making that.
Well, kind of agreed to present it to council.
and I don't have any ideas that I'm like right now thinking like, oh, I want, but I'm just saying, like, I'm sure I will at some point, right?
Generally, it comes out of a committee and sometimes multiple committees. So it could go through finance, the parks, then safety, and then once everybody's approved it to go on the agenda, then we discuss it generally in form of a resolution or ordinance in council.
And you can always go to Justin, because he would be the one that says, we'll discuss that at the next
Okay.
finance committee meeting.
I wanna
Would you like to go? This is when it is.
I want to be clear, I don't really have a problem with somebody sending an email to Justin and said, hey, I got this idea, let's think about it. What I'm concerned about is that we make sure that we're giving him the latitude to do his job.
Yeah, and I didn't know if there was a process for which that needed to
You
be
can
done,
email
because, you know,
him
I only want my
anytime you
third
want
board
to.
You don't want to break the rules.
I don't, and that's the thing, so I'm learning that I need to become more educated about those rules and, but I, you know.
And just one more quick point on that. If you don't attend, I did it for the first time in finance committee. When I discuss important items in any committee, moving forward, I think it's a good idea. You probably didn't get this, but I recapped that, the stuff I talked about, because I talked the whole time. But I sent that an email to everybody, even the council members that weren't there, just so you're apprised of what's going on, even if you don't sit on that committee. Kind of plant the seeds so you know where we're at with it and that it may be coming down the pike. And it also opens the door if you have questions, you can ask them. So.
And I think the information you provided us at finance, you had several pages of data and information concerning the waterworks for the. Go ahead and provide that information even to the council members who aren't on that committee. And then encourage them to schedule a half an hour, give it a time limit. If you've got questions about this, and if it's finance related, I'll meet with you if it's better that way. I don't want to give someone the leeway necessarily to hang you up for 2 hours, questioning you. But I think if you provide the information you provided the finance committee to everybody on council, that may also.
Right, and hopefully moving forward with this Google Drive initiative, the goal is as the month progresses and I come up with source documents or background information or present things, I'll dump that in there. So if it's Friday evening or Saturday morning when you're drinking your coffee, you can open that and see what's going on, kind of how the agenda is building through the month long.
Okay. I mean, quite honestly, if I, had seen this stuff, my vote would have been different tonight because, so.
I'm sure it's all right.
I don't want you to feel bad about it.
Oh, no, and I don't feel bad.
Okay. You vote your conscience.
I hated the, I assumed it was still gonna pass, but I just didn't be conscious of it, but,
Well, you did vote to suspend the rules to let us.
Feel bad, So I think we got that one out of the way. I think we need to get back on the agenda and get to the committee reports.
Well, I'm going to, everything that is on, that was discussed in finance, we have berated already today. I would say that, that the $1,000 finance, committee approved to create a commerce committee wasn't really mentioned. So I wanted to bring that up as a part of finance. Oh God, it's probably not, oh, is it my turn yet? The purchase of the decorative garbage cans to improve the aesthetics, and the creation of the Dora, you briefly mentioned Dora. A lot of this little stuff, almost everything else was already discussed.
I just have on the trash cans, if I can add one point.
Sure.
Actually, I don't know if he's watching, and I can't remember his name, but there was a resident that attended the Parks and Recs Committee. I think it was Parks and Recs Committee, when we discussed, what we with purchasing the new trash cans at Finance Committee, move forward. We also talked about what we can do with the old trash cans. So our estimate was around $200 a trash can to get the ones worth it, sandblasted and powder coated. This gentleman recommended someone, and John called, and this guy's actually going to do them for $50 a piece.
Oh, wow.
So like new trash cans for $50 a piece. We're doing 5 or 6 of them, and we're going to place those in the park. So basically, we're getting new trash cans in the park through that as well. So if you're watching, thank you for bringing that up.
The gentleman's name is Tracy Kennedy.
Yeah, Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, and just part of our stormwater efforts with that checklist item, and just a good resources. We're going to purchase some doggy pickup bags that'll sit right there next to those trash cans in the park. So that way, like 2 birds with 1 stone. So
That's it.
Public Safety Committee.
Jerry's not here.
Not here, so
You took the notes.
yeah.
Before he says this, let me tell you what he said on the sidebar. He said Ken did a great job in running that. So maybe he didn't say it to you, but he said it to me.
Well, thank you. I got a little bit of experience with that, so.
Yes, the majority of our meeting was related to ENS, the emergency alert system, notification system, alert system. It's important. The only other action we really discussed was we went over the speed data. I now have a login to the speed data. And so we'll be able to pull more custom reports based on time of day, day of week. And I'll share that with Sergeant Carney so we can do some targeted enforcement where it's needed. Working on that. So I have the login. I haven't had time to play with it yet, but hopefully we'll be able to address speeding in a targeted manner more efficiently moving forward.
Can I ask you questions?
Yes.
Okay, so CT Young is not identified as a school zone. Used to be,
It's not a preschool there.
that's what I was gonna ask. If we still have students, if we have Head Start or preschool or whatever we may have, and those students are being dropped off by bus to that building, I really think we should explore the need for that to be a school zone as well.
I agree.
It's not just administrative anymore.
No, even all the Oaks kids, when they go to Scarlet, Diamond, Laurel, they all get picked up in there as well. So it's busy in the morning and it's still dark because they get picked up earlier.
I live in Westgate, so I drive down at certain times of the day.
It's a good
And
idea.
people are not observing the 25 speed limit, let alone a school zone limit. So I think I'd love to see that checklist.
Plus, when it's nice out, sometimes they'll take the kids over to like sprinkles and you'll have a lot of kids like congregating, like that makes me so nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I think that still should be identified as a school zone. That could end up costing us some money, but if it saves one kid from getting hit.
It's one of the reasons why we put in the speed signs there and then the crosswalks that they can push the button, but people know that too.
Well, the speed limit's 25.
I mean,
If it's identified as a school zone, it'll be lowered to 20.
we can price a school zone sign. and maybe some paint markings as well.
Well, I'm just checking.
No, I think it's a good idea. No, great idea. Any
There
other?
used to be like a flashing yellow there. But
But I'm just so surprised that when you were here and they, like, there's some people down there driving 60 some miles an
Oh, yeah.
hour. I mean, that's crazy.
yeah, and that's not on Route 50, that's
No,
on,
that's just
Yeah.
Main Street.
That's on North Miami.
I know.
Yeah.
Also related to traffic, we briefly discussed our traffic lights, specifically the light at State in Miami. So right here where PNC Bank is, there's no delay on that light. We've had a lot of traffic crashes there. When one way turns red, the other one immediately turns green. There's no delay. It should go red, pause to green. Without that, people are trying to beat the light, and others are still moving when they catch the green, and we've had a lot of collisions there. So part of another initiative that service directors are working on is retrofitting our street lights at US 50 in Cooper and 50 in State. Those are the parts are on back order when they come in. Bright Streets, our contractor will come in, put LEDs in there to make it a lot brighter, hopefully better light those intersections to reduce crashes. But also they're going to adjust the traffic control boxes to increase the delay on our red lights. So
Is there, and this is a kind of related question, but is there a reason why this alley right here is only one way? Because getting out there, I
This
mean,
one right here.
yeah, I was hit there actually, and that's the only way you can go, but like getting out there is so dangerous.
It was done while I was here in the clerk.
Like, is there a reason why you can't, because it would be much safer to go this way and then,
I'm trying to remember all the justifications.
It's one way this way.
No.
It's going the other way.
it's what,
Going the other way.
Yeah, you're not supposed to go out on North Miami.
well, that's a big line because of that traffic thing.
A lot,
yeah.
a lot
that-
of issues when the fire trucks were in this building.
Okay,
You know,
so that is not
Right.
really an issue anymore, right?
Because, yeah, we have 3 bays underneath there. And
It's
you come out, you pull out and you know what's getting blasted coming out.
Oh, I did, it was
No,
like,
I mean, if you get fire trucks,
oh, yeah,
you get
yeah.
both ways. You would sometimes, and that's why.
There was more to it than that too. I think it had something to do with when we put the skate park in.
And hell,
That had something to do with additional parking, the need for additional parking. Ron Eisenacher had his little wood shop over there, the Total Bender now, used to be a little wood shop. There were various reasons why that was done.
that was many, many years ago.
And yes, I was the clerk at that time, so I don't remember all of it, but, yeah. I know some people ignore it. They just ignore it. They come flying up with it just because they want to.
This,
Yeah, that's a little bit of a history on it.
Us dinosaurs.
Yeah. So outside of traffic, EMA, Nick Crosley came in and discussed this E911 and emergency alert initiative. I think everybody that was in the meeting overwhelmingly thought it was a great idea. It gives us the ability to issue timely canned responses in the event of a fire, flood, train crash. My knowledge with it specifically with schools and emergency alerts there. And so I think we should treat ours the same way. You only issue these alerts if the grizzly bear is in the building and people need to get out. So if people need to evacuate, or the grizzly bear is coming and you need to get away.
I
Or
don't
you need
think it's
shelter.
misused.
No, it won't be. It's important that we limit the type of messages we send it for. We'll have 2. So we'll have the ability to issue it in Cleves within our jurisdiction, and then we'll have a separate one where we can issue it within our water district, which would be all Whitewater, North Bend, Whitewater, Miami Township, Cleves, that whole area, if need be, if there was like a boil water or do not drink alert, advisory or something like that. So once we get that approved, I'll sit with Nick Crosley from EMA, Mr. Babel, and we're gonna tabletop it and do some training, and then it'll go live. We're hoping to spearhead it. The fire department sat into the whole meeting. They seemed intrigued. At some point, we're gonna try to bring the fire chief onto this and North Bend, and hopefully we can make it a community type thing. If we all have that ability, let's say a train scenario happens again, we can establish a command post and we can have our information officers and first responders there, and we can issue timely alerts to our community. So, anything else you want to talk about that? I think we've
No,
belabored
it's just, that's just the general, we'll get into details as we get further into it and explain it to everybody.
Let's move on to the parks.
Parks before.
I have a question for Ajay. We, as council in general, have not been updated on our process of negotiating with the fire department.
well, I don't, that might
Can we
be,
be assured that there's a process in place? Can you comment on any
Yep.
next milestones?
sure. So more of a finance committee initiative now. Was it about 2 weeks ago now? It was myself, Mr. Merkel, the mayor, Linda, and Jerry. We all attended on behalf of the village of Cleves. It was a joint meeting, collaborative meeting, whatever you will, with North Bend and Addiston. It was a very successful meeting. We agreed to approach our counter offer to the township collectively, like we've done the sheriff's office contract. And so I was selected as Cleves representative. There's Bill Dieters from North Bend and Pam Jackson from Addiston that are all on community representatives. I've been working back and forth with them to establish a proposal. So my goal is before the end of this week to get that to Pam and Bill for them to review it. And we'll schedule another collective meeting and submit that to the township. Timeline on that is the next 2 weeks. There's some deliberation on whether we should move forward with trying to formalize a proposal, counter proposal or not at this point. Mayor Salmons requested some public records that we had requested in the past and weren't fulfilled. His request had not been fulfilled yet either. So that gives good context for us to really move forward. Some of that has to do with soft billing. Cliff Notes version of what soft billing is, hey, Cleves pays $260,000 a year for fire service, right? We pay that out of our levy and general fund. But also, if you call 911 and an ambulance shows up to your house and you have insurance, when they ask for your ID and your insurance while they're treating you on their tablet, they're also going to send you a bill. If you have insurance, if you have insurance, your insurance is going to pay that bill. Maybe their bill's $2,000, your insurance only pays $1,000. They take that and call it even. They're not going to hard bill you. They're not going to send you to a collector or make you pay it. But the question is, what kind of revenue are you generating from our community on your soft billing numbers? Is it $20,000? Is it $100,000? And it's been hard to obtain those numbers. The best guess is in Addiston, that amounts to $33,000. So, I mean, just kind of following economies of scale here, that means it would be closer to $100,000 for Cleves.
Awesome.
And when you're talking about asking us to pay 63% increase on our current cost over 1 year, plus an unknown amount for soft billing that our residents are paying you, I think it's important context before we agree to any terms with that. There's some other metrics, but like this is the big ones.
We did get the contract extended for 3 months.
Contracts extended through March 31st. I think we talked about that in January. And I believe we have a very reasonable offer. It's based in facts.
On cost of living and.
Yeah.
But we only have one more meeting before that expires then, right? So.
Yeah.
That's,
I only have one comment about that, and that is, I don't know that we're overly concerned from the standpoint, we can absorb the cost of what they've asked if we need to. However, we want to make sure whatever that cost is adjusted accordingly if we can get that negotiated. Whether they're going to truly negotiate or not, I can't tell you. They believe, at least from what I've seen, that their offer is solid. And written information from Mr. Brett, his comment was there's really not much to negotiate about. Now, whether they maintain that stance after they get the collective results of the village, that's another thing we're gonna have to look and see. We're not gonna know. But I do believe if we get to the point where there's not a solution to that, all three villages are united in that area, we're probably gonna ask for an extension. And whether they'll grant that or not is where the rubber hits the road.
But, I would like to add though, that Justin did figure out that the normal cost of living since the last
Yeah.
contract would be under 20%. And so they deserve at least cost of living, I would say.
Sure.
But they're asking for 61.
3 times.
Yeah, exactly, and there's no justification for it. I think they originally thought if each community put 2 mills on, 2 mills for the village of Cleves creates 160,000. So that, and this one for North Bend, this one for Addison, so they just took that money, thinking 2 mills for every community. That's why they can't justify a 61% increase. Because they didn't, I don't think they looked at what 2 mills would generate and how that would raise it and what percent that would be.
They claim they did.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, and the fact of the matter is, like, as it pertains to Cleves, our millage has went up exponentially. Like, our old millage was $59,800. Our millage is now $81,000.
because of reevaluation.
Reevaluations, and, property values increasing. So, I mean, what were they factoring a mill on when they?
Oh, they were factoring it on the highest amount, I guess. 80, what, it was $160,000 increase, right?
$159,000.
Yeah.
$159,400 to be exact.
Yeah, that was based on the new evaluation.
Yeah, they based it on that. No question about it.
And it's just hard to justify. When we first entered into this agreement all those years ago, I was here. I would like to know, had they had to hire a bunch of new people? They didn't have to open another firehouse to provide service for us. I think we were filling in some gaps in service
In their funding.
at the firehouses where they didn't have calls. But I would like to know, did they have to hire 4 more full-time people or just to service us,
And that should be easy to find, right? How many do you have before? How many do you have now?
Well, they had a plan. This before you came on board, but they had a plan for what they wanted.
And that was 6 more
And
captains, 6 more
it was
lieutenants,
significantly more people,
leadership.
layers of administration put in there. And their levy went down also. So they've lost, I believe, $900,000 of funding. Okay, so they've lost that. They have a levy back on, a 4.5 bill that's going on in the May ballot. And the amount they're asking is about $325,000 less from their residents. Even that is gonna be a substantial increase in property taxes.
Yeah, once the levy goes down, it's all new levy.
Yeah, so it's all based on new valuation. They're gonna bring in less, but they're still bringing in, if they pass it, it'll be a significant amount of money. And we're still gonna have to watch what they're doing on staffing, because anytime you put administrative costs in there, that's not your true firefighters that are out fighting. Okay, the biggest part of their bill is EMS. That's where most of them were getting hit with.
And they're having problems staffing new positions. And
They're a smaller department.
I have some personal knowledge from people that I know that are in the fire industry that won't apply.
There's one other question. This is to be researched, probably discussed at length at another time, but this is very untraditional, but we still pay a percentage of our property taxes to Miami Township.
Small.
It's a small percentage, but it is a percentage. And so when you research that through like the Ohio Revised Code, Basic Code, why does a village, even though they're incorporated, still pay a percentage to the township? That's because the township's still offering you some type of service. Well, the service the township offers us is fire protection. So what our residents are paying out of their property taxes to the township should also be.
Cemetery, by the way. We have cemetery rights.
Okay.
It's minor, the library. It's minor, but we are an incorporated village. a statutory incorporated village located within the boundaries of Miami Township. That makes all three of our villages unique.
Maybe it is the cemetery. I mean, I don't have the historical knowledge of that. I just know,
I think that's part of.
generally
another thing.
speaking, cities and villages that have become incorporated no longer pay to the township that they.
Yeah, this is a unique situation. And like I said to them during our meeting, when we had a meeting with them, we could run for township trustee. All six of us could. Because we do vote on their trustees. We don't vote on their levies, but we vote on their trustees. So we are their residents as well. And there was a threat at one time that they would shut off service and they wouldn't do any calls to Cleves residents. Well, I think that would have created lawsuits because we are Miami Township residents as well. But I'm not a lawyer, so.
They don't believe so.
I know, but
Okay.
their firefighters wouldn't have liked that, I can tell you right now. Firefighters being told that they can't respond to a fire where someone, that would have, I don't know if they would have honored that command, to be honest.
Well, you know the letter they sent out.
I
I
know.
thought that's why Mr. Borath was here tonight. I'll draw all the residents in Miami Township. We believe, because we had a conversation in December with Mr. Brett, we believe they had every intention of coming in.
Shame on them, that's all I can say.
So, anyhow,
I mean, I think
Maybe this isn't fostering you.
I think it's
I
important.
just wanted to know if we have a process, and because we're only gonna be, you might have a finance committee by the time you have additional input, but you probably only have a council. So I just want some assurance that the process is moving along for some kind of resolution.
it is.
That we're in touch and we're falling off the rails.
We're moving together collectively, and so we are at this, I think we're at the same point in our negotiations as Addison and North Bend. So we're moving forward together. So if services are going to get cut off or a determination needs to be made on an extension or not granting an extension if need be, it won't be singular. That decision will have to be made for all three villages. So.
It'll become a fiasco in the news broadcast.
I was just.
Especially you come up with the numbers that really support our point of view of not being required to pay a 62% increase. It's when your fire runs and your EMS runs don't change drastically from one year to the next, and you turn around and ask them for a 62% increase. I'd have to see the numbers of what justifies that. It just doesn't make any financial.
Everything's gonna be based on what they've increased the salaries of their firefighters and their EMS. And for a while there, they were requiring 2 paramedics to go to every fire. I think they're backing off of that now. I'm just telling you what they were doing. All that's been calculated in, and they feel they need to be at a certain level to be competitive with Cincinnati and Delhi and Green Township. And they're not wrong about that, okay? And those are fixed costs. Regardless of the number of runs, you're gonna have to have fire protection regardless. The problem is the increase, the right increase. It's not a question of should we pay more? It's a question of how much more.
And I can tell you from a public safety standpoint, being retired from that, Cleves is an anomaly with, the mayor saying that Cleves could absorb the cost. I don't know a public entity, even Indian Hill, was going to accept a 62% increase in their police, fire department, or everything else.
Well, I'm not so sure I agree that we could absorb the cost, because if you look down the road, 160,000 increase this year, next year, the year after.
It's gonna,
No, we couldn't absorb it. We'd end up,
short-term number, short-term.
well, 1 year maybe.
Yeah, and that's what they want right now, so what,
I know, and I argued that. I thought we needed more than one.
I agree with you. I think
And we could have a built-in cost of living increase. projected for each year
Yeah,
too.
it's part of what Cindy and I have been working on as far as the state and
Okay.
village. And
I appreciate the service we get, and like Kevin said, I don't wanna reach out ill will. I appreciate the service that I get from them. I don't have any problem with their service, I just think this is an unjustified increase that would be hard. What if your house payment went up 62% this year?
be out of your house.
You know, and that's the point I made during our
Yeah.
meeting, think about this, you know, if the bank called you and said your house payment just went up 62%. There'd be, some people couldn't afford their
I'd
house.
be walking away from the mortgage.
So what is, township doesn't have an increase, so do they?
Increase what?
On how much the residents of the township are paying?
Yeah, oh, keep in mind, had they passed their levy, their rates would have gone up 125%.
Right.
Right now, I haven't had time to get on the other site to figure out what the actual percentage will be, but I will figure that out. It's probably gonna be around 90%
Because it failed.
because it failed.
It wouldn't have been that if
Well, it
they,
would have been, if they would have gone for a renewal, which they didn't,
or a replacement,
yeah, or a replacement, which they did, it wouldn't have been quite as bad.
right?
But they were going for the whole thing. Okay, they put all their eggs in one basket.
So they had to use the word increase.
Yeah. That's exactly what it's gonna say on the ballot, but it's a primary ballot. And that means there's gonna be a low voter turnout. So who knows how it's gonna go.
When you have the advantage of reappraisals being done so soon, it benefits you to do a replacement and even a small decrease, and you'll still bring in more money.
Yes.
Um,
That's the thing, yeah, the values have gone up.
Yeah.
So they're already getting.
so people are already paying more.
Exactly.
These administrations, though, they will sit in a room, as Justin knows, and they will fight tooth and nail over a 1% raise for employees. But they're floating a 62% raise, and that's administration across the board. A lot of money, mediocre money, up, I mean, all the way
Yeah.
back and forth. And it's amazing, because 62% is like massive.
Yeah, it is.
That's a massive amount of money.
Okay, I mean, it would put a lot of small communities that have their own services all the way around, put them out of business. That's why some are going out of business, but it's not that high.
Okay,
Can we get to your park report?
Yeah. Please give me one thought. Mine. Might not just be us, it might be Miami Township, it might be local government in general, getting screws twisted done in general. Fire engine costs what, $1.5 million now?
Y'all gone close to it, yeah.
And I'm confident, I'm confident enough that I bet if I look it up, I can substantiate this. What I heard is finance pros, private equity, are buying up production of public utility equipment. And they're concerned about profits, not about maybe delivering that at what society needs. It may be that there are forces at work that are just going to make everything unaffordable, from our houses to our food to our safety. So maybe we're fighting back against that, but
well, you gotta try.
so when we say, oh, it's 40%, well, maybe they did jack up the price 40% or 60%. So where we find our power, maybe another question. Everything that we talked about in parks has been mentioned already, excepting for there's one consideration that will be sent to finance, I believe is what we agree with. But good to raise awareness for people while we're here. There is a floated offer from PRCA to provide some funding for additional equipment or additional consideration to improve the quality of baseball, softball fields as we offer. The specifics that we're thinking about that will be presented in finance are: do we accept this contribution toward the purchase of additional equipment, which we believe will substantially save maintenance crews time, the point where they can simply be doing something else. For Justin will have the specific figures, but the justification would be save 10 hours a week or whatever it is. That maintenance can be maintained in the village instead of dragging fields where I believe we're looking to put the effort on the parks coordinator
Yep, yes.
or select other entities.
Parks coordinator and select other.
You'll get the full description. The idea would be to get that off, maintenance is back with the purchase of this. So we need to consider how much we want. All those strings and how much we value it.
Yeah, and there's different ways we can attack that, but long story short, currently we have a drag that has to be pulled by our service department, Kubota, and can only be performed by the service department. It has to be driven from 680 North Miami to the park and back. You're just working the figures. It takes about 30% of our total service department's work hours each week during spring and summer and fall when they're maintaining the grass and softball, soccer or baseball fields. So the goal is to purchase a piece of equipment, a field drag that'll be kept at the park in one of the sheds. There's talk about purchasing a Connex box for like $1,000 or $2,000, storing it there, putting it under the purview of our parks coordinator so he manicures the fields, a piece of equipment that's a standalone piece that stays there, using the money that TRCA gives us to put a down payment on it, financing it over a period of time, and then with the parks revenue that we made last year and we intend to increase this year, paying it off. Now we have a piece of equipment, standalone at the park that does a better job, does it quicker, takes the strain off of our maintenance department and makes TRCA more happy, brings more teams, brings more games, tournaments, increases our revenue at the parks, while also opening up about 30 man hours for our service department to focus on service department things, storm sewers, painting the lines, cutting the grass in the village.
Where do we store it so it doesn't flow through the floodwaters back?
There's only been one time in at least the past 20 years or longer that the water's reached that level where the sheds are, where golf or Chevron keeps their stuff.
Where are those sheds on? That's what I'm asking.
You know where the BMX track is? You know where that area where the big soccer fields are that goes up about 12 foot in elevation?
I know where the BMX is and I know
So
where
BMX is here. It's right next to BMX.
the sheds are.
Yep, so BMX is here, swing set used to be here, it's gated, there's the shed here.
It's changed a lot since I remember it.
We're talking about getting like either a 20 or 40 foot Connex box that we could maybe potentially share with BMX. Other conversations, Chevron allowed us to tap their electric at no cost, so we're gonna tap the electric, we'll have security cameras, some security lighting there, buy this piece of equipment, store it there. When a flood's coming, it's not like it's a flash flood, so we would have time to get our equipment out, and there's a way to, when it did flood there, it was less than a foot. So it's not like it's enough to pull it away.
But it could ruin it if it's got an engine and a motor. And
Well, we would get the equipment out if we knew a flood was coming.
what kind of money are we talking? You said you're gonna take the finance. I'm just
Probably
curious.
around $10,000 to $11,000.
Oh, okay.
And 2,500 of that would be applied right off the bat to,
Okay, I just wanted to, are we talking 20,000, 30,000?
10 grand. But it lasts after, probably financing no more than 8,000. And our net revenue should surpass that this year. So we should be able to pay it off in 1 year.
Would we have to finance it?
There's talks about that. We could pay it out of the general fund. Parks could pay it back to the general fund at the end of the year. There's a lot.
General fund could pay for it if we want.
I'll present other options. Yeah, and then the parks fund could pay it back. I mean, we
We
have
could
options.
pay it without them paying it back if we voted to do so. Okay,
Anything else, Kevin? Then I would entertain the motion.
so moved.
Moved by Mrs. Bolton, is there a second?
Of course.
Mrs. Babel, go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yay.
Mr. Babel.
Okay,
Okay, just before we're adjourned, before you guys go, everybody is available early on Saturday. So we can do this.
You have to post it.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that. I guarantee you it'll be. posted.
I know.
You're
Nine
We'll make
o'clock.
sure we have everything we're gonna
And
talk
where
about.
is available to?
Yeah.
9 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not gonna just cut into my sleep-in time,
my issue is.
because I'm a night owl. I stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning and I love sleeping.